Hi everyone, and they say a good Chodesh. Matt, you hear me? Sound is good? Thumbs up? Good. All right. So we have a good Chodesh. Today is not only a preparation for Shabbat, but as we mentioned last week, it is the beginning of a new Jewish month, the month of Elul, the month that precedes the holiday of Rosh Hashanah. Now we're going to talk a little bit about that today because Jewish calendar isn't just randomly chosen dates to designate something or other, but they're very specific. The Jewish calendar is there to help calibrate our reality with the deeper spiritual energy that exists at that time. So when there's a holiday or a festival or something special going on in the Jewish calendar, it's not random. There's something deeper going on in the reality in which we live. There's something deeper going on in your life. And the rituals that are associated with that time of the year are actually rituals to be able to allow us to be in tune to what's going on. You know, something like salt. When you put salt on some food, it's not just there to it is there to make the food taste better. But what happens is, what the salt does, it doesn't add a taste of salt if you put in the right amount. What it does is it brings out the flavor, the beauty of the flavor, of the sweet flavor of that particular delicacy. And so it is in Jewish ritual. When there are certain rituals associated with certain times of the year, it's there to allow us to draw out and experience the great energy of that time. And so it is in this time of the year. Good Chodesh, happy Rosh Chodesh Elul, the first day of the new month of Elul. A very, very incredible spiritual rhythm that's underlying our reality and a ritual that's associated with it. What's that spiritual rhythm? Our relationship with God, our Creator, and our purpose in this world. You know, we talk about our relationship with God all the time, but it's in this month that Kabbalah and Hasidic teachings teach us that there's an extraordinary openness in this relationship that we can draw inspiration and energy from. That's why today we're going to have some of the songs that our good dear friend Matel, you there? Matel's going to help put us into that mood, and we're going to start today's singing with the Avinu Malkeinu. It's a Rosh Hashanah, it's a high holiday melody. So why are we doing it a month before? Because what does Avinu Malkeinu mean? Avinu, our father, Malkeinu, our king. These are various aspects of the relationship that we have with our Creator, with Almighty Creator. And this is something that we don't wait for singing it on Rosh Hashanah. As we'll talk about a little later, we prepare, we build up with it. So we're going to sing the song of Avinu Malkeinu. We'll open up this program. We'll follow the sermon with another song, Ki Anu Amecha, that talks about this relationship. And hopefully after the sermon, you'll have a better feeling of why we chose that song. But again, we won't forget that it is Shabbat coming up, and we'll have a Shabbat song as well. So we will start with the singing of the songs. We will then move on to the next ritual associated with this month, which is the blowing of the shofar. Again, not something that we wait for till Rosh Hashanah, but we begin on this first day of Elul, and I'll explain all this later during the sermon. But for now, let's welcome Matel, our resident friend, who has a good guitar and a nice voice and plays beautiful melodies, to open up this afternoon, the pre-Shabbat program with Avinu Malkeinu.
Shabbat Shalom and Chodesh Tov.
Got it.
Avinu Malkeinu Choneinu Vaneinu Avinu Malkeinu Choneinu Vaneinu Ki ein banu ma'asim Asei manu Tzedakah v'chesed Yaseh Imanu Tzedakah v'chesed v'hoshiyenu. Yai dai dai yai yai dai dai dai. Yai dai 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 dai. Yai dai 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 dai. Ya dai 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 dai. Ya dai 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 yai dai dai dai.
All right, Muttal, I'm here. Let me get back on the screen. There we go. Thank you very much for that beautiful rendition. It really got to me. I'm really starting to realize that this is serious. Rosh Hashanah is coming. Rosh Hashanah is going to be here. This morning I blew the shofar, but this kind of got a little deeper into that. And this is what we're going to talk about, my friends, today. We're going to talk about the preparation and how this Shabbat is not just about this Shabbat, but this Shabbat actually introduces us into the process of Rosh Hashanah. But before we do that, we're going to do a different ritual today that is associated with the month of Elul, and that is the blowing of the shofar. So I'm going to blast the very basic sounds of the shofar, and then we will go on to the sermon. And there they are, the sounds of the shofar, the singing of Avinu Malkeinu, the entry into a very special part of the year as we prepare for Rosh Hashanah. And we're going to be doing this every day except Shabbat for the next 30 days until the day of Rosh Hashanah. So it reminds me of a saying of Mark Twain. Mark Twain said, the month of October is a particularly dangerous month to speculate on stocks. The other dangerous months are January, February, March, April, May, June, July, September, November, and December. See, Mark Twain knew that when it comes to stocks, every day is a risk. The market could be up today, the market could be up tomorrow. But I know you didn't tune in to get some advice on stocks. But as everybody's speaking about the highest stock market, the greatest stock market, how high things are, and yesterday there was a report, and the day before it was a report, it reminded me of a very interesting phenomenon. And those are the reports, and how important the reports are for those that trade on the stock market. You hear it in the news, the quarterly report, but there's one report that every company is eager to produce, and that is the year-end report. We know in businesses, it's all about the bottom line on December 31st. When you hit that midnight of December 31st, it's done. Whatever numbers you had, that reflects what type of year you had. That changes the trajectory of how the year is going to come, how the businesses will do. But we all work for that year-end number on December 31st. I'm not in the stock market, but I do raise funds for our organization. And we know that fundraising at the year-end is the most important. People give most of their money in December because they know they have to make sure by December 31st, they've given a certain amount of money to be able to show up on their tax return for deductions. December is a very important month. In fact, people don't wait till December 31st. They don't even wait till December 1st. The last quarter already in October, as Mark Twain says, things start to take on a different pace because the end of the year is so close. And my dear friends, so it is spiritually. Our beginning of the year is not January 1st, but the first day of Tishrei on Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah is not just a beautiful day when we dip apples in honey. Rosh Hashanah is the Rosh, is the head, is the beginning of our coming year. It is how we are going to set the tone for the coming year. And we don't just show up to the first day of Rosh Hashanah without any preparation, because we have to make sure that the way we finish the books for this year, the spiritual books, will set the tone for the blessing that God will give us the next year. Because on Rosh Hashanah, we have a day of judgment. God gives us the energy that we need for the entire year to come. And certainly, we must show up and show that the past year, we have used it at least the best to our ability, the way we hope and the way God hoped for us when he gave us that blessing. So this month of Rosh Hashanah, this month of Elul, is the month in which we prepare to be able to approach Rosh Hashanah in a very healthy and successful way. We have to look back. What kind of year-end report are we going to be providing to our Creator that will justify another year of life? What kind of great actions have we done in the past year that were meaningful and impactful? We get life because we need to make a difference in this world. And we have to think about that difference. What did we do in the last 12, 11 months and the next month coming up to Rosh Hashanah that really explains why we are here? And therefore, this becomes a very important month. And this is why we blow the shofar every day. If you look into the commentaries and look, why do we blow the shofar every day of the month before Rosh Hashanah? You'll find a very interesting expression that can raise some questions. But I'll give it to you the way it says. It says that the reason we blow shofar every day before Rosh Hashanah is to confuse Satan. Who is Satan? And as we've mentioned many times, these ideas are Jewish ideas in a very different way than maybe it's accepted in the Western culture. But there's a concept of Satan, the Satan. And the Satan is the energy that wants to disturb and distract and destroy anything good. And as I said, I'll give it to you in its raw form. We'll discuss it more over the next month. But Rosh Hashanah is the day of judgment. The Satan is the power that stands in between you and a good year. The Satan is that energy that doesn't allow a year of goodness to flow into your life. So this is what the commentary says. We blow Rosh Hashanah every day for a month to confuse the Satan, to confuse Satan, to make sure he doesn't know exactly when Rosh Hashanah is, so he won't show up at the day of judgment. You know, those of us who got the traffic tickets and you need to show up in court, and sometimes you keep pushing it off and trying to hopefully that day that you push it off, the cop won't show up. That's one trick I was told. It works sometimes. But the point is, if every day we blow Rosh Hashanah shofar, hey, Satan won't know when actually Rosh Hashanah is and when the day of judgment is. You're safe. But let's think about that. If we're talking about a spiritual energy, we're not playing a game. Satan isn't a physical human being or devil, as they depict him, that has a mind that can forget. We're talking about a spiritual reality. There's no confusing Satan. Satan knows when the day is. Hey, he can always Google it. Go Chabad.org and he'll find when Rosh Hashanah is. Is really every day blowing shofar will distract Satan from knowing when to come to the heavenly court? So I found this very interesting commentary. And the commentary is, of course, Satan knows when the day of judgment and when to show up in God's court. But what Satan will be confused about is, one second, I had this whole case set up against this individual. They didn't do this and they didn't do that. They totally forgot about life, the mission life and purpose in life. Satan will have an easy case. But if all of a sudden we show up a kind of a different kind of person, the last 30 days, hey, what happened to this person? They did live a purposeful life. They did bring spirituality. They did wonderful, great things over the last 30 days. You're going to upend the whole argument and the whole case against you. And therefore, every day we blow shofar, so really to inspire us that when we come to Rosh Hashanah, We are improved people. If maybe for the past year we didn't necessarily do what we needed to do, but now we have a month to catch up, to fix things up. Just like in December, where you'd make those last deals because you got to meet your quota, you got to meet your expectations. And spiritually, that's what Rosh Hashanah is. We blow the shofar a month before. Don't wait till Rosh Hashanah to show up and ask God for a wonderful life. God loves you anyway, and even if you do show up. But prepare yourself so that you're able to come and give your year-end report and say, although maybe 11 months we didn't do exactly what we needed to, but hey, God, we met the quota, we got up where we needed to do, but it's not a game. It's really about life. When we talk about the day of judgment and the day of life, Rosh Hashanah is really there to help us think about the purpose of life. It's a new year. It's a new beginning. And the only way we can really have a new beginning is if we prepare properly and if we condition ourselves to do so a little better. You know, it's a beautiful story that I heard about a fellow, actually not a fellow, but it was two nations that were neighbors and had the border. And there's a lot of commerce, a lot of business. There's a very busy, active border, let's say from Canada to US. There's so much going on between the two countries. But at one period, the countries got into a conflict. There was one aspect that one country did better than the other, and that was they had a better cemetery system, a better burial system, better funeral. So always this country would do the funeral. Members of residents, citizens of this country would always travel to the neighboring country to do their funerals. It was just more organized, better funeral directors. Then when this conflict came, all business stopped. It was frozen. And therefore, people in this country couldn't do the funerals anymore in the next neighboring country. So a treaty was signed that for humanitarian reasons, they will allow coffins and funeral processions to go over the border and be able to bury it in the proper way. A humanitarian gesture. Well, there's some people that figured we can use this out. And many people did the funeral processions past the border, but others said, hey, we got an idea. All the gold merchants and the silver merchants and the diamond merchants and all the people that were dealing with small items would fill up coffins with all this jewelry and all these items that they could fill in. And they made believe that there was a funeral procession, put everything in the coffin. Once they got into the other country, boom, they were able to sell their stuff. Well, this went on for a few weeks until one of the agents at the border got a hold of what was going on. He realized something is suspicious because he said, you know what? When people are burying their parents, they're usually crying. And he noticed there's a whole element of these processions where people weren't even crying. They weren't upset. He figured there was something going on. The next time one of these processions was crossing the border, he stopped them right there in the tracks. He said, stop. I want to see the coffin. What's in there? All of a sudden, they froze. And all of a sudden, they started crying because they realized they were caught. And the agent told them, friends, if you would have cried before I stopped you, you wouldn't be crying now. And this is kind of a message, not about crying, but even about joy. If we prepare ourselves for Rosh Hashanah in a proper way, if we prepare ourselves for the coming year in a proper way to refocus, redirect our purpose and our ambition and what we strive for, if we prepare ourselves now, Rosh Hashanah will be a wonderful day to start our new era of life, of meaning and purpose. But if we don't prepare ourselves properly, then Rosh Hashanah can come and go. And Rosh Hashanah is too holy of a day, too special of a time for us to be able to just come and go. On the day of Rosh Hashanah, we begin the trajectory of our next year. We begin the process of life of the next year. So to make it meaningful and to be joyful from Rosh Hashanah on, let's begin today and every day of the next 30 days to bring meaning into our lives. I want to conclude with a very interesting thought about an item in this portion and a little story that explains this a little better. We talk about the month of Elul, and last week we said that the Hebrew word Elul, is the acrostic of Ani lidodi v'dodi li. I am to my beloved, and my beloved is to me. Well, there's another acrostic, which the Rabbi would always emphasize, and that is a verse in Exodus about an idea that is actually elaborated upon in our portion. And that is the idea that in Israel, in the times of the temple, if a person mistakenly killed someone else, or maybe they were a little reckless, but it wasn't intentional, and needless to say that the people of the survivor would protest and go run after and want to kill the guy, there was a thing called Ir Miklat, a city of refuge, where this unintentional murderer can run away and immediately put a stop to any people pursuing him. It was kind of a forced disconnect for everybody just to calm down. Now, it's very interesting that in Exodus, the verse that is used for that idea is Ina liyado v'samti lach, which first letters are also the words of Elul. And this, the Rebbe explained, is what this month of Elul is about. It's kind of a city of refuge. It's kind of a time that, for 11 months perhaps, we weren't living the life, the meaningful, purposeful life that we're capable of living. But it doesn't mean we can't redirect our lives in a very dramatic way by getting into the spirit of Elul like a city of refuge that, in a sense, suppresses where we were and gives a very stark turnaround in our life. Not drastic that it kills our life, but in a way that forces us to think, hey, what am I doing? Have I been distracted? And this is a story I want to conclude with for you to think about over the next month as we prepare for Rosh Hashanah. We talk about politics and elections. And the one thing rabbis should never talk about is politics and elections. But I'm just observing, we had the Democratic National Convention this week. We're going to have the Republican Convention next week. And then we all know what's coming until November. It's going to get furious. It's just got this world, this America, we haven't seen an election like this. And it's going to get exciting. I don't know if that's positive or negative, but that's reality. So I want to share this following story because I think as we see the battle between the candidates heating up, maybe we can understand what was going on in this story. There's once two kings that were fighting with each other. King A needed to conquer King B, needed to conquer the land of King B. Otherwise, he would have been deposed, right? We know that during political times, before elections, presidents and leaders do things to be able to boost their numbers and their probability of election. So this king realized that if he doesn't conquer his next door country, he has no value and they're going to depose him. So he started to devise a strategy to conquer his neighboring country. But whatever he did wouldn't work. He just couldn't penetrate that border. They had a defense on that border that was not penetrable. And the king really didn't know what to do. So he was desperate. So he created a competition amongst his generals. And he asked his generals, if anyone's able to devise a plan that I can conquer, I have the best prize and the best reward. They can spend an hour in my most cherished treasure room, where all the royal treasures of generations are there, the most expensive and exquisite stones and jewelry and crowns and everything we possess, gold and silver, and take whatever they want. Because the king was thinking, if without the conquest of the next country, I'm nothing anyway. And sure, lo and behold, within a few days, one of his top generals comes to him with a plan of conquest. And if you're able to go through these steps, we can capture the next country, the neighboring country. And in fact, it worked. The president, the king, was now able to conquer the neighboring country. And he was successful. Now comes payday. He has to invite the general into his room. But he realized what he's going to do in an hour. You know what this guy can get in an hour? He could take the whole room practically, and he lost all the treasures. So what's he going to do? He has to keep his promise. But how's he going to give up all those treasures? He had an idea. He researched, what does this general like? What are his hobbies? What really attracts him? And he heard that this general is a real foodie. He loves good, exquisite, international foods. And he loves music. He's a music buff. He really knows symphony music and classical music. That draws him. He just gets lost in that. Okay. So the day comes, the general's invited to the royal palace to come into the king's treasure room. But right in front of the treasure room, right outside that section of the palace, the king puts up 2 tents. In one tent, there's a great food bar, all you can eat, of all international types of food. And these are the king's chefs. They were exquisite foods, a bar, drinks, desserts, everything that a person can want. In the other tent, there was the greatest orchestra playing the greatest symphony music that there is. As the general enters and is all ready to get his booty, to get all his reward, he smells these beautiful aromas of this exquisite cooking of international flavors. And he's drawn to the tent and he sees all this food. He says, I got to get those treasures, but I have an hour, because he had an hour limit. Let me have something to eat. Let me have a bite, and then I'll go in. So I'll get a few less diamonds, but look at his food. And he's eating and he's drinking and he's having this blast of his life. And as 20 minutes goes in, the music starts to rise and he hears this unbelievable symphony music, and he gets so involved in the food and the music that the time is ticking. And before you knew it, the hour was up and he lost his opportunity to get the real treasure. And this, my friends, is a metaphor of what goes on in our life. We are brought into this world to do something, to really connect to the King's treasure, our King of Kings. As we sang before, Avinu Malkeinu, who puts us into this world, and the opportunities he gives you, the mitzvot he gives us, our rituals to bring out the flavor and purpose of your life. We are here to do something, to make a difference. That's what your soul is. That's what a relationship with God really is. But what happens? Instead of collecting the crown jewels, we get distracted by other bodily and material things that distract us. For some, it's their job. Others, it's their pleasure. Others, it's other materialistic pursuits that we have that are very self-centered. And we forget that there's a whole reason why we're here. And this is what the month of Elul is. To spend the next month thinking about purpose, reason, what is really meaningful in life, and are we spending enough time? All meaningful things in life are opportunities, are crown jewels that our Creator is giving to us. If we understand that relationship of Avinu Malkeinu, then we can draw on our purpose in a very powerful, meaningful way. When we blow the shofar, or when we think of the shofar, it's not about confusing the Satan alone, but it's about redirecting our focus. So our life, by the time our life is done, it wasn't distracted by meaningless things, but by things of purpose, by things of value, because God puts us into this world for a reason. Before we continue with the next song, I want to conclude with the conversation I had earlier before with someone. He said, God doesn't give us what we can't handle. And I said, my friend, it's not God doesn't give us what we can't handle. God gives us things to handle. When you have a challenge, when you have something standing in front of you, don't say, well, God wouldn't give me if I couldn't handle it. Say, the reason God gave it to me is to handle it. It's a whole different perspective. Everything in our life is there for a purpose. What's put in your life is because God wants you to make a difference in that area, and he gives you the tools to handle it. But sometimes we drop the ball. Many times we drop the ball. Most of the times we drop the ball. I drop the ball. We all drop the ball. We get distracted by the music and the food. We'd rather have the music and the food as opposed to dealing with the challenges and the struggle. So next 30 days, think about one of the balls that you dropped. One of the things in your life that you just didn't want to deal with. It was just too much for you to handle. And remember that God gave it to you, so you should handle it. That's why it came across your table. And if over the next 30 days you choose one, maybe two, of those drop balls that you dropped, now we come to Rosh Hashanah. Now we get a year. Hey, God says, look at this guy. Look at this woman. They can handle. I'm going to give them more royal jewels, more royal diamonds, a greater and deeper relationship. So, my dear friends, yes, have a wonderful Shabbos. But remember that this Shabbos is also the beginning of an incredible month, an incredible opportunity, that city of refuge that gives us the power and the ability to really tune in and redirect and refocus our minds onto what's valuable and purposeful. If you do this a little bit for the next 30 days, oh my gosh, next year is going to be an incredible year in your life. And when you and I do what we need to do, it's going to be an incredible year for many other people. Have a good Shabbos. Have a wonderful, meaningful experience. The next song that Matal is going to sing for us is a song that talks about this relationship. Kianu Amecha, we're your people, you're our master, we're your child, you're our parent. All different forms of the relationships between us and our Creator that we sing during the high holiday period, but something we should start thinking about today. And after that song, get right into the Shabbat spirit with a good Vishamru. Matal, you ready?
Yes. Kianu Amecha Ve'ata Elokeinu Anu Vanecha Ve'ata Avinu Anu Avdecha Ve'ata Adonenu Anu Kehalecha Ve'ata Chelkeinu Ay Anu Nachlatecha Ve'ata Goraleinu Anu Tzonecha Ve'ata Roeinu Ay Anu Charmecha Ve'ata Notereinu Anu Ve'ulatecha Ve'ata Yotreinu Ay Anu Raitecha Ve'ata Dodeinu Anu Segulatecha Ve'ata Elokeinu Ay Anu Amecha Ve'ata Malkeinu Anu Ma'amirecha Ve'ata Ma'amireinu Ay Rabbi, we can't hear you, Rabbi.
You got me now?
Yes.
Okay. I love that tune. It gives me a double take. I love that tune because it's an upbeat tune to a very serious subject of our relationship with God. So we have Jewish done joyfully. We have our relationship with our Creator done joyfully. And hopefully that joy just penetrates everything that we do in our lives. As we mentioned before, we are going to conclude with a Shabbos song. So at the end of the day, it's Shabbos, a very special Shabbos, a Shabbos of Elul. But let's focus into the beauty of Shabbat, Vishamru, sung by Matal.
I just want to say that I learned that Kianu melody going to shul at your shul.
Hey, look at that.
So
Goes around, comes around.
that's right. Visham. Oh yeah, thank you. Visham Eruvine Yisrael et HaShabbat Lahasot et HaShabbat Lidorotam Birito Lam Veini Uvein B'nei Yisrael Oti Leolam Ki Sheishet Yamim Asado Shem Et HaShamayim Uvet Haaretz Uvayom HaShevi'im Shabbat Vayinafash Yai Dai Dai Yai Dai Dai Yai Dai Dai Yai Dai 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 Yai Dai 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 Yai Dai Dai Yai Dai 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 Yai Dai Yai Dai Dai Dai
Thank you, Motel. You hear me?
Yes.
So we conclude Vishamru, and the Jewish people shall observe the Shabbat. And reminds me of that very famous saying that it's not the Jews who keep the Shabbos, it's the Shabbos that keeps the Jews, because giving us this weekly 24, 25-hour period to reflect upon purpose, meaning, relationships, is something that keeps us strong. It's kind of Elul every week. So when you have a Shabbat in Elul, boy, that's powerful. So let's use out the power of the Shabbos. I want to wish everyone a good Shabbos, a meaningful Shabbos, and we'll see you next week. All the best.